The next toolbar we're going to discuss is the View toolbar. Unfortunately, not all of the tools in the View toolbar are visible right now, and I can tell that because I've got two little arrows pointing to the right, and that indicates there's tools that are going off the screen and visible behind this area here. In order for me to see all of the View toolbar, I'm probably going to have to close one of these other toolbars down. I'm going to grab the handle. This is called the Knowledge toolbar here. This is the handle. If I want to move a toolbar, I grab it by its handle with my left mouse button. And then I'm going to close this because we're not going to be using this right now. And by doing that, the View toolbar is now, all the tools are visible. There we go. If you need to get the Knowledge toolbar back later, you can always right-click on any toolbar. And this is a list of all of the toolbars available for this workbench. Now, you can't see the top of this list because it's off the screen in my presentation here, but they're all listed. If this area is grayed out, it's because the toolbars are locked. So if I select the Customize button here, right here, I select Customize, I get this Customize window up. And if I click on the Options tab, there's a place here where you can bullet or unbullet lock position of toolbars. If this is bulleted in here, you're not going to be able to move the toolbars around, nor are you going to be able to select toolbars to turn on and off. So right now we're going to leave that unbulleted so we can move the toolbars around. So if you right click on this and these are grayed out, it's because the position has been locked. So what I'd like you to do now is minimize the presentation and take a look and see if you need to make any adjustments to your toolbar so that you can see all of the View toolbar. If you're working on the classroom computers, you're going to notice that your View toolbar along with your standard toolbar is already at the top of the screen, so you won't need to do anything. You won't need to move any of your toolbars around. Those of you working on your home PCs, you're going to need to make some adjustments. So go ahead and do that now, and when you're done, you can come back to the presentation. The first tool in the View toolbar is called Fly Mode. Put our cursor over it, it says Fly Mode. And what this allows us to do is actually fly through the part. So I'm going to select this now. And we're going to get this window up that says Fly Mode is only available in perspective projection. Change to perspective projection, and it's asking me yes or no. And typically we're viewing, or when we're working on our part, we're viewing it in parallel mode. And perspective mode gives us basically vanishing lines. So it's more of a perspective view. So we're going to select yes to that. And then you'll see that the visualization of our part is changed. And now we have a couple of tools down here. The toolbar is changed. If you take a look here now. This is now changed. And we have one that's called Turn Head. I'm going to select that with my left mouse button. Then I'm going to use my left mouse button. And basically it's the same thing as us turning our head left and right or up and down. Alright, the one next to that is called Fly. And if I click on that with my left mouse button and then hold down my left mouse button, I'm then flying through the part. Like that. I can do loop-to-loops. Come back through the part. Now, you notice that I was moving rather rapidly. Right here we have acceleration. We got plus and minus acceleration. So I'm going to hit the minus sign to decelerate. And then this yellow box here is called Fit All In. If I select that, it's going to zoom down so that my part is now visible on the screen. So now that I've decelerated a little bit, let's click on Fly Mode again. And now you'll see that my rate of acceleration is 0.04. I don't know what that's relative to, but that's pretty slow. So let's click Accelerate one time. And then click the Fly Mode button again, or the Fly button. And I'm at 0.5. Let's hit Accelerate one more time and try this. Now that's still pretty slow. Let's click on it once, twice. Yeah, 0.14. That's a little bit quicker. So here we come. Now let's do a little bit more. Oops. Here, that's a little bit better. If you want to bank your turn, you can hold the Shift key down, and you'll see that it's kind of a bank turn. And we're going to fly through the part. Now, in everyday practice, I don't find much use for this, but it is in the View toolbar, and I wanted you to see how it works. Here I'm flying through the part, and then let's make a turn here and maybe fly through this hole. We'll use our shift key and we'll bank into this one. Whoops, doing a little twisty there. So anyway, that's how the fly mode works. I'm going to select Fit All In again, and then I'm going to select where it says Examine Mode, and it's going to change me back to my standard View toolbar. Okay, so what I'd like you to do now is minimize the presentation and give fly mode a try. By the way, when you're done with fly mode, you can go up to View, Render Style, and select Parallel again, and it'll put us back into parallel projection. So go ahead and minimize the presentation. Click on your fly mode button here and give a try turning your head and flying and accelerating and decelerating and so on and so forth. And when you're finished, come on back to the presentation. The next tool we've already used, and it's called Fit All In. The tooltip says Fit All In. If my part is off the screen and I select the Fit All In box, which is yellow with 4 arrows, it brings the part back into view, and it will either shrink it down or zoom it up in order to make it fit on the screen. The tool next to that is called Pan. And Pan can be done with either this tool. I click it with my left mouse button and then click and hold down my left mouse button and move this around. I'm panning. Now I'm not moving the model's position in space. Basically it's the same thing as me turning my head left and right, top and bottom. I'm just changing my perspective. The minute you release your left mouse button, the tool releases, and if you want to do it again, you have to select it again. Now you can also pan with your middle mouse button. If you hold the middle mouse button down and move the mouse, you can pan that way. So let's everybody take a moment now to minimize the presentation and use the pan tool in the View toolbar, and also use the middle mouse button to pan. Also do the Fit All In. When you're done, you can come on back to the presentation. The next tool we're going to discuss is called Rotate, right here. And this allows us to rotate our model. So we're going to select that, and we put our cursor on the screen. If I wanted to look from the top down at the part, I put my cursor above the part to press my left mouse button, hold it down, and you see that a sphere, orange sphere, pops up, and my hand is grabbing the sphere, and then I simply pull in the direction that I want to rotate, like that. When I release the left mouse button, the tool releases. I'm going to select it again. If I want to look from left to right, I would put my cursor to the left, drag it to the right. Again, right to left, bottom to top. If I just wanted to turn my part, I'd have to put my cursor outside of the sphere, and now I can just turn the part like that as long as I don't enter the sphere. Now, there comes a time when you want to change the rotation center. In fact, that's going to happen quite often. To change the rotation center of the sphere, simply put your cursor over a portion of the part that you want to rotate about, depress your middle mouse button without moving the mouse, and then release. And where your cursor was at on the part will then snap to the center of the screen, and then you select the rotate button, and now you're rotating about that. Okay, I'm going to use my pan to pull this back over, and we'll do that again. I'm going to put my cursor here. I'm going to depress the middle mouse button and release it. It jumps to the center of the screen, and now I'm rotating about that precise point. Now you can also use your mouse to do the rotate. To do so, you're going to place your cursor on the screen where you want to rotate. You're going to depress the middle mouse button, and then you're going to depress the left or right mouse button. So now I have the middle mouse button and the left or right mouse button held down simultaneously, and I pull like that. Put your cursor where you want it. If I wanted to look from left to right, I'd put my cursor to the left. I'd hold the middle mouse button down, then depress the left or right mouse button and rotate. If I want to look from the bottom to the top, I put my cursor onto the part, depress my middle mouse button, then depress my right or left mouse button, and then move my cursor up like that. One word of caution: while you're doing that kind of rotate with the mouse, where you're depressing the middle mouse button and the left or right mouse button, do not put your cursor over the part. If you choose the buttons in the wrong order, instead of doing a rotate, you'll do this duplicate, rotate transformation of the part, and the part will become messed up. So until you become really familiar with how the mouse buttons function, keep the cursor off the part. At this point, let's go ahead and minimize the presentation and go in and use the rotate tool to rotate. Also, place your cursor over the part and use your middle mouse button to change the rotation center. Just once again, to do that, you place your cursor over the part, depress the middle mouse button without moving the mouse. If you move the mouse, you move into pan mode. Okay, so it's essential that if you want to change the rotation center, that you keep the mouse perfectly still, like that. So use the rotate tool, change the center of rotation, and also use the mouse to do the rotate. And when you're done, come on back to the presentation. The next set of tools we're going to discuss are the zoom in and zoom out buttons or tools. They work very simple. The one with a plus sign zooms in. The one with a minus sign zooms out. And you can also use the mouse to do zooming. If you place your cursor in the middle of the screen like so, if you depress your middle mouse button, continue to hold it down, click and release the left or right mouse button, you'll see that you have double arrows pointing up and down. If you move up, you zoom up. If you move down, you zoom out. So push up, zoom in, push down, zoom out. Let's do that one more time. You place your cursor anywhere on the screen. I like to place it in the middle because if I move it up, then I can zoom in, and if I move it down, I can zoom out. You depress your middle mouse button, and while you continue to hold it down, you click and release your left or right mouse button. If you push your cursor up, you zoom in. If you push your cursor down, you zoom out. So let's everybody minimize the presentation at this point and experiment with the zoom in and zoom out, and also use the mouse to do zooming. When you're done, come on back to the presentation. The next tool we're going to discuss is the normal view tool, and it actually performs a couple of different functions. When we click on it and we select a planar face, it rotates the view around so that we're looking perpendicular to the planar face. Also, if we click on normal view and then select a line, it looks down the point view of that line. So go ahead and minimize the presentation and experiment with the normal view tool. When you're done, come on back to the presentation. The next tool we're going to discuss is called Create Multiview. There's the tool to create multi-view, and what this is going to do is divide our screen into 4 different quadrants, and whichever quadrant you put your mouse cursor in, that becomes the active quadrant. And as you can see, I can rotate, pan, and zoom in each quadrant. Now, where this comes in handy, we have a very small part here, but let's assume for a second that we're working on an airplane and we have a fillet in the front of the airplane that we want to be able to use in the back of the airplane. And if we wanted to do like a drag and drop or cut and paste or something like that, we'd have to pan all the way to the front of the airplane, right click and copy the fillet or grab it and start dragging it, and then pan all the way to the back of the airplane, and that becomes a pain in the rear end. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to zoom in on the fillet that we want to use, assuming like this is the front of the airplane, and we're going to paste it here, and let's assume this is the back of the airplane. So I'm going to drag this, and I'm going to hold the control key down, which is going to put me in a copy and paste mode, and then let go. And as you can see, the fillet was copied here and then pasted here in 2 separate quadrants of the window. So that is a circumstance under which it may be handy when you're working with a large part and you need to copy features from one end of the part and easily paste them to the other end of the part. You'd want to divide it into 4 quadrants using the Create Multiview tool. To turn it off, you just select the Create Multiview tool again, and you're back to where you started. So take a moment to minimize the presentation and go in and experiment a little bit with the Create Multiview tool. When you're done, come on back to the presentation. The next tool or set of tools we're going to discuss are the Preprogrammed Views. Here is the top tool right here, which is called Isometric. If I select that, it puts me back to an ISO view. That's the default view when the part was created. There's a black arrow here, meaning there's more tools underneath this one. So I'm going to click on the black arrow, and I have several more pre-programmed views. I have a front view, I have a back view, I have a left view, I have a right view, I have a top view, and I have a bottom view. I also have the ability to create my own view. I get when I select the Name Views tool at the very bottom of the list here, it's called Named Views. I select that. What this allows me to do is I can roll my part around till I get to a vantage point that I want to record or I want to save. Then I click Add, and by default it calls it Camera 1 or Camera 2 or Camera 3, so on. I can highlight this area and I can type in something else. So if I had more of a descriptive name, maybe like True View Surface A or something like that, I could give it that name. Right now I'm just going to give it my initials and select Apply, and then select OK, and the dialog box closes. Now let's go ahead and roll this around to a different vantage point, and then I'll select Name Views, and then I select KDC1 from the list and select Apply, and it puts me back to exactly the view I was looking at when I created KDC1. So that's a very handy tool to have. So let's minimize the presentation now and do a little experimenting with these pre-programmed views, and go ahead and create your own named view. When you're finished, come on back to the presentation. The next set of tools we're going to discuss are the visualization modes. There's several, and there's an arrow here, which means we have several tools underneath this one. Let's click the arrow and let's go to the very top of the list. This one's called just shading. Okay, and the next one is called shading with edges. You can see the image change as I select these. The next one is called shading with edges without smooth edges. So anywhere there was a tangent line, those edges are no longer visible. Then we have shading with edges and hidden edges, so that shows me the hidden elements, and it's done in real time. So in other words, as I rotate the part around, it's dynamically changing. So what edges should be hidden as I rotate the part are hidden. Then we have one that's called shading with material, and we don't have a material applied to our part yet, so we'll come back to this. Then we have just plain wireframe, and then finally we have customize view parameters. And in this customize view parameters window here, you can choose how you want to view your part. So I'm not going to mess with that right now, but you'll want to spend a few minutes and give that a try. The other thing that I wanted to show you is that sometimes when you're working in a very large part, it's difficult to select faces behind where you're at. So for example, if I need to select the bottom face on a small part like this, I'll just rotate around and select the bottom face. But if this was a larger part where it wasn't that easy for me to rotate it around and select the back, what I can do is actually select through the part. So I'm going to put my cursor on this face. If I were to select with my left mouse button right now, I would select this top face. But if I hit the up or down arrow key on my keyboard, I'm able to actually select through the part. So every time I make a selection, every time I press the up or down arrow key on my keyboard, it's actually selecting a different face. So if I click right now, for example, I would get the back face. And you'll see here's a list of the faces here. I can also select it from the list. And there I've selected the back face. Again, on a part like this, it doesn't necessarily make any sense to do that because it's so small. But when you're dealing with a larger part or you're inside of a part, it's not so easy to rotate around and select another face. And so this is a handy tool to be able to do that. So let's go ahead and minimize the presentation now and experiment some with these different visualization modes, and also experiment with using your up and down arrow keys on your keyboards to select through the part to different faces. When you're finished, come on back to the presentation. The next tool we're going to discuss is called Hide Show, right here. And to discuss this, I'm going to need to zoom in on the tree a little bit so you can see the tree better. And to do that, I'm going to hold the control key down on my keyboard and use the wheel on my mouse to zoom in on the tree. Okay, now take a look at the icon next to the XY plane. See how it looks shaded? Same thing here with the YZ and the ZX plane. Same thing with sketch 1. All of these elements are in hiding. Basically, they're invisible. If I want to bring an element from the hiding environment into the visible environment where I can actually work with it, I'm going to select the element and then come down here and select Hide Show. And there you see now the XY plane that was in hiding is now visible again. Let's select the YZ plane and select the Hide Show icon, and there you see the YZ plane has now come out of hiding. We'll do the same thing with the ZX plane, and now all three planes are visible. You'll also take a look now and see that all of the icons look different. They look clear, they don't look shaded any longer. Let's take a look at sketch 1. If I select sketch 1 and I select Hide Show, there's sketch 1. That's the sketch that was used to create this pad. By default, when you create a pad or a pocket from a sketch, the sketch is automatically put into hiding. And so we have just brought the sketch out of hiding. And it can be handy to do that because sometimes you need to be able to work with the sketch after you've created a solid modeling feature from it. So it's important to be able to bring it out of hiding. There's another way to put something in hiding or bring it out of hiding without selecting the Hide Show button down here. You can actually right click on an element. I'm going to select this plane, right click on it with my right mouse button, and you can see in this contextual menu that there's a Hide Show. So I'm going to select, right click on that plane and select Hide Show, and now the plane is gone invisible. Okay. Now there's a tool right next to Hide Show that's called Swap Visible Space. And anything that's been put into hiding, if you select Swap Visible Space, you're now looking in the hiding environment. So right now, sketch 2, let's swap back again. If you take a look over in the tree, sketch 2 still has that shaded icon next to it, which means sketch 2 is still in hiding. So if I select Swap Visible Space, there is sketch 2. So now what I can do is I can select that and select Hide Show, and now it's invisible here because this is the invisible space. It's no longer invisible. And then if we select Swap Visible Space, now you can see that it's in our work area. So if I want to put it back in hiding, I can either select it here or select it in the tree and then select Hide Show, or I could right click on it and select Hide Show from the contextual menu. So let's take a moment now to minimize the presentation and go ahead and experiment with Hide Show and Swap Visible Space. And then when you're done, come on back to the presentation.